Katherine Mary Knight, born the 25th of October 1955, was the first Australian to be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Born to a dysfunctional home with an alcoholic and abusive father, Katherine did not have a great start to life. As an adult, Katherine was known for being tough and ready for a fight with anyone or anything. This extended into her relationships, where she was known to be physically abusive toward her partners. During the wedding to her first partner, David Kellett, Katherine's mother Barbara offered David some advice. David is quoted as saying, "The old girl, Knight's mother, said to me, 'Watch out. You better watch this one or she'll f***ing kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're f***ed. Don't ever think of playing up on her. She'll f***ing kill you.'" And that was her mother talking. She told me she's got something loose, she's got a screw loose somewhere. It turns out her mother was telling the truth. Not even 24 hours later, Katherine tried strangling David because he fell asleep after performing intercourse 3 times. Violence was a key theme in the marriage, with a string of other events following. A heavily pregnant Katherine burnt all of David's clothes and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan, simply for coming home late from a darts competition because he reached the finals. Shortly after the birth of their first child, Melissa Kellett, David had enough and left Katherine for another woman. Unable to cope with him leaving, Knight pushed her pram down a main street before violently throwing it onto the train tracks. Katherine then went on to steal an axe and threaten people in town. Luckily, her child was saved only minutes before a train passed, and Katherine was admitted to a mental hospital, but discharged the next day. Only a few days later, Katherine went on to slash a woman in the face and demand she drive Katherine to Queensland to find David. The woman escaped during a stop at the service station. Police were called and on arrival found Katherine had taken a young boy hostage, threatening him with her knife. Once again, Katherine found herself in a mental hospital where she admitted to nurses she intended to kill the mechanic working at the service station because he had repaired David's car, allowing him to leave. After murdering the mechanic, she planned to continue traveling to Queensland, where she would then murder David and his mother. Once police informed David of the events that had taken place, he left his current girlfriend and returned living with his mother to support Katherine. On the 9th of August 1976, Katherine was discharged. She moved into the care of David and his mother. On the 6th of March 1980, the couple had another child, Natasha Marie. In 1984, Katherine left David and moved back in with her parents before receiving government housing. Katherine then moved on to form a relationship with David Saunders in 1986, and the cycle continued. Katherine started to become jealous of what Saunders did when she was not around and would frequently kick him out of the house. After these events, Saunders would move out before Katherine would come back begging him to return. It is reported in May 1987, Katherine cut the throat of Saunders' 2-month-old dingo puppy in front of him. She did this as just an example of what she would do if he ever cheated on her, before knocking him unconscious with a frying pan. Saunders eventually went into hiding after Katherine hit him in the face with an iron and stabbed him in the stomach with a pair of scissors. Months later, Saunders came out of hiding to find the daughter he and Katherine shared. However, he found Katherine had filed an AVO with the police against him. After her relationship with David Kellett and David Saunders ended, she began a new relationship with John Chillingworth for 3 years before leaving him for another man she had been having an affair with, John Price. John Price was a father of 3 when he met Katherine. It is said that John was a nice guy, and everyone who came into contact with him liked him. John knew of Katherine's violent reputation, but was quoted as saying, apart from the violent arguments, life was a bunch of roses. It got a whole lot worse for John after he refused to marry Katherine. In retaliation to his refusal, Katherine videotaped items such as out-of-date medical kits John had stolen from his employer's rubbish tip. John found himself fired from the position he had held for 17 years by his employer. The same day, John kicked Katherine out of his home, and rumors of Katherine's actions spread across the town. Only a few months after this, John and Katherine once again started dating, and she moved back into his home. Their fighting was so frequent most of John's friends would no longer speak to him while he was dating Katherine. In February 2000, after Katherine assaulted John and stabbed him in the chest, he finally kicked her out and took a restraining order, trying to protect him and his children. That same afternoon, Price also told his co-workers if he didn't come to work the next day, then Katherine will have murdered him. Though his co-workers urged him not to go home, he was afraid Katherine might kill his children. Returning home, John found his children had been sent for a sleepover at a friend's, but Katherine was not home. Katherine purchased lingerie and returned to John's house while he was asleep. Katherine watched some TV before having a shower and waking John. It is reported they had sex, and after, John fell back asleep. 6 a.m. the next day, the neighbors became concerned for John as his car was still in the driveway and he had not arrived at work. John's employer sent a worker to see if John was okay. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on his bedroom window but received no response, only noticing blood on the front door. Police arrived at 8 a.m. and broke down the door to find John's body with Katherine comatose from ingesting a large amount of pills. She had stabbed John with a butcher knife while he slept. Blood evidence showed John had awoken and tried to turn on the light and escape, but Katherine chased him through the house. John got to the front door, managing to get outside before either stumbling back inside or being dragged back into the hallway by Katherine. Later that night, Katherine visited an ATM and withdrew $1,000 from John's account. An autopsy of John's body shows he was stabbed at least 37 times in the front and back of his body. Several hours after the murder, Katherine skinned John and hung his skin from a meat hook in the lounge room. Katherine then cut John's head off and cooked parts of his body with baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes beside each plate, each having the name of one of Price's children on it. She was preparing to serve his body parts to his children. A third meal was thrown out on the back lawn, and it is speculated that Knight had attempted to eat it but could not. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the early morning. Sometime later, Knight arranged the body with the left arm draped over an empty 1.25-litre soft drink bottle with the legs crossed. This was claimed in court to be an act of defilement, demonstrating Knight's contempt for Price. On the 8th of November, Katherine was sentenced to life imprisonment, and the judge refused to fix a non-parole period and ordered that her papers be marked never to be released, citing Katherine's lack of remorse. This is the first time that this sentence had been imposed on a woman in Australian history.